Part 104. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1031. These particles were swept into other storms again and disappeared without a trace. Standing in this storm, the Soul Master said in a low voice, "The power here is very violent. Ordinary strong men can't resist it at all. This coordinate looks like a kind of selection threshold. If you can't gain a foothold in this area, you have no qualification to attend the meeting at all." The master of the fairy palace nodded, and at this time 5 kinds of light rose around him. It was the 5 innate rules, and he actually stepped into this realm silently. He has cultivated to the last true spirit calamity, and has reached a round and flawless feeling. 5 kinds of light surrounded the master of the fairy palace, forming a huge sphere. At the same time, a mysterious spiritual power surged out of his body, with the power of the soul as the source, and quickly flowed into the other 4 powers. As the power of the mind flowed into the 5 innate powers, they began to make amazing changes. They gradually changed from 5 distinct colors to a chaos, colorless and invisible, no big or small, infinite and infinite. The Lord of the fairy palace took a step out and stood in the storm outside. The violent storm blew on the chaos around him, and all the storms that touched the chaos seemed to fall into a black hole. It was swallowed up completely, leaving nothing behind. The Soul Master on the side seemed to be interested when he saw this scene. A hazy soul light flashed around him, and a halo appeared behind his head, with a round gem in the center of the halo. This dark blue gem was the product of the embodiment of the mind, although it was not perfect. But it could already release pure spiritual power. The light enveloped his body and merged with his soul power. The 2 forces formed a fluctuating shell, and this fluctuation seemed to have the characteristic of destroying everything. The Soul Master took a step out and stood outside to welcome the baptism of the storm. All storms blowing on him would be directly shattered by this fluctuating light. The light collapsed countless times in an instant, and in the end nothing was left, as if it was annihilated. The Soul Master formed an absolute domain, and no power was allowed to enter its range. Lin Yi was the most relaxed. Under the power of the boundless true destiny and the perseverance of the true destiny, he stepped out of the glory of the president. The storm blew over his body without causing him any damage or traces. As for the spiritual waves consumed, it was less than 1 per 1,000 of the spiritual waves that the spiritual wave sphere could restore by itself. The 4 of them all had the ability to survive in this storm. It seemed that their actions were recognized in some way, and a light extended from the dark place in the storm. This light extended from the center of the storm and reached directly under their feet. Wherever this light passed, the storm automatically avoided it, just like a pug facing its master. The 4 people landed lightly on the road of light, and the next moment, this road of light took them quickly to the center of the storm. The speed at which the light took them forward exceeded imagination, and an inexplicable force enveloped them. In an instant, it was billions of kilometers, as if time and space jumped. Finally, they came to a wonderful place, and an island floating in the void appeared in front of them. The island was surrounded by a circle of mysterious light, which was exactly the same as the light under their feet. This is a color that cannot be described in words, because this color is constantly changing every moment. This circle of light stopped all the storms in their tracks, unable to advance an inch. It was not a physical barrier, but the storm would automatically deviate when it arrived here. There is a huge main peak on the island, and several secondary peaks surrounding it. There is a huge palace on each peak. The mountains are full of various exquisite plants, as well as some mysterious creatures, exuding a strong mysterious power. The nature of this power is somewhat similar to spiritual energy, but also different. It is obviously another kind of eternal power flowing out. The light path led the 4 of them through the light curtain surrounding them. When they passed through the light curtain, they landed on a jade bridge. This jade bridge stood across the sky and extended all the way to the main peak. With their arrival, A humanoid being with a white body appeared on the jade bridge. This is a creature without flesh and blood, and it looks like some kind of silicon-based life form. His body is exactly like a jade carving, but it has the softness of flesh and blood. His face is a handsome human face, his body is slender, and he is 2 meters tall. He has a pair of white wings on his back and wears a white robe. He looked at everyone with a respectful expression. "My lords, please follow me." As he said, he turned and walked along the jade bridge, and everyone followed him. A group of 5 people walked quickly along the jade bridge towards the main peak palace. About 5 minutes later, they arrived at the gate of the palace. There was a pair of guards in front of the gate of the palace, and they were all the same creatures as the guide. These guards looked straight ahead, looking outside the palace, and never looked directly at them. As they stepped into the palace, ancient jade tables were neatly arranged inside, and someone was already sitting behind the jade table. Among them, 2 of them were recognized by Lin Yi, the black robe and black shadow that appeared at the dark side door. However, they did not know of Lin Yi's existence. They just glanced at them and then looked away. In addition to the 2 of them, there were 3 different existences. One of them was like a dream, with only an illusory human figure. One was pitch black, flashing with countless stars, and looked like there was a galaxy in his body. Another had a strange beast head, wearing metal armor, 5 meters tall, and flashing with a sense of power. However, they were not the masters here, and the person on the main seat was still empty. There were about 49 jade tables in the entire palace at a glance. Lin Yi saw the scene and his heart moved slightly. Are there only 40 or so people who received the invitation? That is to say, in the entire ancient parliament, only 40 or so people have touched the 2nd level of the mind, or even above. Thinking of this, the 4 people noticed it, and a trace of heaviness appeared in their eyes. The 4 people quickly took their seats one by one. Just a few minutes after they sat down, 5 figures shrouded in black robes came with sleeves. The moment they saw them, everyone knew their identities. The powerful men behind the mysterious history, number 12356. As for number 4, he has become a bartender in the Wanchaiwu, Champagne, and has no connection with them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1032. The back of history came and sat down directly. So far, 13 people have sat in the whole hall. Each of them has touched the 2nd level of spiritual power at the lowest level, almost all the strong people known to Lin Yi. However, there are 49 seats here, and there are at least 36 strong people of the same level. At this time, Lin Yi and others still found that they were sitting in the last 30 seats. These jade tables are all green, and the first 19 seats are all bright yellow and purple jade tables. There are 7 purple jade tables including the main seat of the palace, and the remaining 12 are bright yellow. This seems to have been specially arranged. In other words, in the cognition of the convener of this ancient meeting, whether it is Lin Yi, the president, or the back of history, and He and Ying, who have mastered the 2nd level of spiritual power, can only be ranked in the last 30. This order of arrangement made everyone secretly shocked, and they vaguely sensed the power and depth of the desert void. Several people were secretly shocked, and a trace of surprise and uncertainty appeared in their eyes. Including the back of history, they seemed to have noticed that there was something wrong with the seating arrangement. The eyes of several people hidden in the black robes narrowed slightly, revealing a trace of thought. It seems that there are many secrets hidden in this void. The mysterious hidden strongman is stronger than we imagined. The president's thoughts echoed in the hearts of Lin Yi, the soul master, and the lord of the immortal palace. In the desert void, the real strongmen are all hidden. Look at the 3 colors of this jade table, which clearly represent 3 different levels. And we are only at the lowest level now, which means that people who have mastered the 2nd level of spiritual power can only be ranked in the 3rd echelon in the desert void. Is there anyone who has mastered the third and fourth levels of spiritual power? The president's words made several people secretly shocked, not knowing what was going on. Lin Yi shook his head slightly. It's not possible to master the fourth level, but it's possible to master the third level of spiritual power. I once had a brief conversation with the ancient gods and could sense the limit of their spiritual power. They have only mastered the third level of spiritual power. If these people in the ancient council have mastered the fourth level of spiritual power, there is no need to form an alliance. Any one of them can easily destroy the existence of the ancient gods. So the third level of spiritual power should be the limit of their power. Hearing Lin Yi's explanation, the president and the master of the fairy palace and others were slightly relieved. What Manager Lin said makes sense. Let's take a look first. Then, people came one after another. Some of them had earth-shaking auras, and some were like nothingness without a trace. Some people were carefree, full of vitality, and some were gloomy as water, without any emotional fluctuations. The figures brought great shock to Lin Yi and others. All of these people had traces of spiritual power, and each of them had their own eternal nature. Lin Yi also found the problem. Why can the people who can sit behind the bright yellow-green table sit there? That's because they master multiple eternal properties and have at least 3 different spiritual concrete products on their bodies. This reminded him of champagne. This person has a golden book and a black sword on his body, which are the products of the integration of 2 eternal properties into the mind. Lin Yi suddenly thought of his own inference. His true destiny seems to be the product of the fusion of multiple eternal properties and spiritual power. Sure enough, my inference is correct. The infinite deduction of true destiny must rely on more eternal properties to achieve it. Today's Blue Star clone is still working overtime to absorb the Deo trace information in the inheritance items. However, the Deo traces are different. Some are perfect, and some are just a taste. To condense a complete Deo trace universe, the number consumed is far more than 98 trillion inheritance items. Basically, it is close to 120 trillion inheritance items. Originally, his calculation was that more than 100 imaginary Deo trace universes could be constructed. Now in actual operation, only about 70 or 80 can be constructed in the end. But this represents 70 or 80 different eternal properties. This number is far more than the people he has seen so far. At this time, his eyes fell on the participants behind the purple jade table. The aura of each of them is very ethereal, and all of them are powerful people who are hidden. However, under Lin Yi's true destiny, it is still easy to see the clues. These people have actually completed the unity of mind and life, and their minds do not exist at the level of mind. And their power is already the third level of mind fluctuations. Obviously, these beings have contacted the third level of mind earlier than the ancient gods. And what's more terrifying is that almost every one of these people has more than 9 different mental concrete products. Each mental concrete product is a fusion of eternal properties and mental power. Seeing this, he thought in his heart, that is to say, in the eyes of the real upper-level existences in the desert void, they have long discovered the power of the mind. And almost without exception, they have reached a very far degree in mental power. But from the words of Jinyu and the other 2 in the dark side door, it can be judged. It seems that they have gone through countless years of research and learned a lot of knowledge about the mind system in the void before they finally walked on the path of the mind. That is to say, the second and third levels of this ancient parliament were completely separated in the past. The people sitting behind the bright yellow and purple jade tables have never leaked information about the power of the mind in the distant past. People in the class of Jinyu and Gushin have never known that the mind is the mainstream. Thinking of this, Lin Yi was shocked. These people in the ancient parliament hid too deeply. They didn't reveal any information. It seems that they should be the existence before the more ancient coordinates. They are older than Jinyu and other existences, so this organization is called the Ancient Council. Then are those who came here all the existences that have mastered the power of the mind in the desert void. Thinking of this, Lin Yi thought in his heart, maybe not entirely. The desert void is even vaster than the life void, and you can't even see the end at a glance. Maybe there are even bigger crocodiles hidden. It is a giant that the ancient council cannot touch. Countless thoughts flashed through Lin Yi's mind, and at this time, all 48 seats in this huge palace were already taken. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1033. The latest chapter of the Wanchai Wu I Created is updated the fastest. The last main seat was still vacant, but at this moment, a figure appeared there silently. A thought came to everyone's mind. Everyone, since everyone is here, let's have a feast. He clapped his hands gently, and the next moment, something different appeared on everyone's table. All of them were fruits and fine wines emitting different colors and divine light. These are all specialties on the island, some rare fruits, and my favorite Beiwa wine, which is brewed with pollen from hundreds of spiritual flowers. You are welcome, you can try it. As he said, he raised the wine glass on the jade table in front of him. I will toast you first. This mysterious existence looks very similar to humans in simple appearance. But he has long purple hair and purple eyes. The whole appearance is like a carefully carved jade, with sword eyebrows and star eyes, and all the beauty in the world is concentrated on him. At this time, he was smiling and raising his wine glass, saluting everyone from a distance. Everyone picked up the wine glass in front of them and drank it in one gulp. There was a fragrance in their mouths, and a coolness penetrated their hearts. At this moment, they seemed to see the rules of the void running all things in the world. Lin Yi's heart trembled slightly. This glass of wine was not just a simple pollen brew. It seemed to contain countless information, which was the information of the operation of the entire void. This effect was extremely amazing. This glass of wine made them almost see the birth and destruction of the entire void. Countless information brought great benefits to the Lord of the Fairy Palace and the Soul Master. In their minds, all the information that was beneficial to them was instantly understood and absorbed by them and integrated into their power. The spiritual power they mastered seemed to have increased. The two of them could be said to be the weakest existence in the entire palace. Although they had also entered the spiritual level, the gap was obvious, so their gains were also the greatest. The wine glass was put down, and there was a dead silence in the palace. The guards and waiters who were originally standing on the left and right of the hall quickly retreated and disappeared here. The palace gate also slowly closed, and it became a completely closed space. In the palace, the mysterious purple-haired man sitting in the main seat said slowly, "Some of you may not know who I am yet, let me introduce myself first. I am the Speaker of the Ancient Council, GZI. Originated from the original state countless coordinates ago. The Ancient Council is an organization composed of 7 ancient beings, and each of us has mastered the 3rd level of spiritual power. This time, we summoned everyone to expand the Ancient Council and deal with the upcoming danger. The standard for entering the council is to master at least the basic spiritual power. The council will not have upper and lower levels, but there will be strong and weak. Everyone's goal is not to fight for power or fight fiercely, but to unite as many forces as possible to survive in the future changes. I wonder if you are interested in joining our ancient council." GZI looked at everyone on the bright yellow jade table and the green jade table, and a faint smile appeared on his face. There are 42 people who have mastered the 2nd level of spiritual power. Their eyes flashed with a trace of thought, looking at GZI in the main seat and the other 6 strong men at the purple long table. Each of these 6 beings exuded a faint pressure, which made them feel a huge danger. This was the vigilance from their own hearts. I only heard one of the people at the green jade table slowly say, I don't know what the future disaster that Jitsi mentioned is. We must know the reason so that we can make the right choice, right? Jitsi's eyes fell on this person. The guy who asked the question was shrouded in a gray smoke. He seemed to have no specific form, and the smoke was his body. Jitsi looked at him. Ancestor of the mist, I can answer your question. We have several enemies, one of which is from the spiritual level. The second one is from the weird place. The third one is from other empty domains. Other empty domains. Hearing this, the ancestor of the mist seemed to know something, and the surrounding mist seemed to tremble slightly. The machine continued, most of us are ancient beings before the void. Some are born in the original state in the air, and some are born purely in the air. Each of us is different from ordinary life forms, and each of us is a miracle. We have eternal nature since birth, and we are born to dominate everything. Although we are extremely powerful since birth, we also have enemies, that is, beings that are older than us. They always want to hunt us, seize our eternal nature, our powerful hearts, and we are their food. So the existence that can survive from the distant coordinates to the present is very smart and good at hiding itself. Hearing this, everyone showed a trace of thought and looked at each other. This world is very big, the void is just a creation created by the ancient gods that exists in the air, a kind of life nest. The sky is the real unknown, it carries countless secrets, and everything we have is rooted in the sky. Whether it is the spiritual level or the strange land, they are just a form of existence of sky. But these two levels are very large, so huge that they overlap with the sky almost perfectly. At least that's the information I know so far. And our enemies have been lurking in the mind and the strange land since the distant coordinates. They have been waiting for us to show signs, waiting for more delicious food to be born in the sky. And now they think the time is ripe. They will come and invade all the life nests in the sky. Other air areas also have different life nests, and they are all our enemies. Because they can also increase their strength by hunting other life nests. In order to survive, all the life nests in the air will do whatever it takes. So we will have many enemies in the future. It will be a very difficult war. No one knows how many people can survive. Hearing the information leaked by the machine, the 42 people who were not in the ancient council felt a huge picture. The terrifying pressure that came to their faces was like the end of the world, and they were just one of them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1034. The real world is inside the scroll, a world where the jungle is the law of the jungle. Everyone felt the tremendous pressure, but no one flinched, because it was destined that no one could escape this war. Regardless of whether what the machine said was true or false, the information that was leaked now made them have to pay attention. At this moment, the machine waved its hand slightly, and an illusory projection appeared in the center of the hall. This is a three-dimensional structure, with a hazy colored light floating in a huge air space. Some faint light spots appeared in the area around this light group. These light spots were flashing and approaching this hazy colored light group. This huge mass of light is the void we are in, including the void of life and the void of desert. And those flashing dots around are intruders from other airspaces. They actually discovered us a long time ago. It just takes them countless hours to get to us. The distance in the sky is the structure of coordinates. It is an extremely weird structure in itself, and it is not a simple front, back, left, and right. It's a coordinate gap. It's impossible to get close between the two coordinates. You can imagine that there is a steel wall between every point in the sky, and you and I are just ordinary people. According to normal principles, it is impossible for us to break through the steel wall and reach the other side. If you want to get from one coordinate to another, the power and ability required are beyond your imagination. Only when you have stepped into the third level of spiritual power and achieved the goal of making the impossible possible, can you move in the air. in order to move from one coordinate to another. Empty itself is not an actual thing, but a basic concept. This concept doesn't even have a distinction between big and small. Only when you reach the realm can you feel and see emptiness. You haven't reached the third level of psychic power yet. So I can't detect Sara's existence yet. So you may not really understand what I tell you. At this time, there was a trace of thought in Lin Yi's eyes. Kong had already arrived there through the power of the miracle coin. He understood that what the other party said was true, because if it weren't for the power of the miracle coin, he wouldn't even have discovered the existence of empty. When he was in empty, when he used the true life path interpretation to check, he knew that void and emptiness overlapped. And empty is a very strange place. Ordinary actions cannot be moved at all, as if it is fixed there. He is also able to move at will with the power of his true life, and he is consuming a huge amount of his own spiritual waves every moment. Now he was very surprised to hear that there were invaders invading the void from the empty plane. Those who can do this kind of thing can predict the strength of the other party. As the machine said, it requires the third level of the mind. Everyone here is digesting the information revealed by the machine. At this time, I only heard the president speak slowly. If we form an alliance, what do we need to do? The machine's eyes fell on the president, with a smile on his face. President of the Void Destiny Committee, I have been observing you. Born from the void, an eternal level existence that relies entirely on self-cultivation. At the same time, I also touched the second level of spiritual power, completing the embodiment of the soul. You are an absolute genius. Your problem is very simple. Let's gather together and help each other. This is the sole purpose of our ancient council, to build a fortress that is only ours. Try to survive the chaos that follows. What I can tell you is that there are many strong people like me in other airspaces. It might even say a lot. On a spiritual level, there are even beings more powerful than us. They are the real hunters, more powerful than we can imagine. Even I don't have 1% certainty that I can escape this disaster. That's why I established the ancient parliament to unite all forces that can be united. In this critical moment, we must unite together to survive this disaster. The machine conveyed his will calmly, but it was unclear what the people below thought. Everyone is digesting his information. If all this is true, it means that a big chaos will come sooner or later. Their eyes looked at the scene in the main hall. Countless light spots had appeared around the light group. It was obvious that a large number of existences from other empty domains were converging here. All this shows that what the other person said is very likely to be true. Each of these many light points represents a strong man who controls the third level of spiritual power. What does this mean? It's scary just to look at it. Everyone fell into deep thought. At this moment, a huge fluctuation suddenly came from the void. This wave of fluctuation appeared so violently that it shocked the entire void the moment it appeared. Everyone looked towards the source of the fluctuations, and their eyes shone with inexplicable brilliance. Then, they saw an extremely horrific sight. One after another, various colors of light appeared out of thin air in the void. In each ray of light, there was an extremely powerful figure, and they all exuded eternal infinite light. The majestic spiritual power spread to the surroundings, as if announcing their existence. And this was just the beginning. The entire void began to tremble violently, and groups of violent holes and lights appeared in every corner of the void. One after another, huge holes appeared out of thin air, and majestic forces that did not belong to the void surged out. At this time, the void was like a sieve, with countless holes. And from these holes, endless power gushed out, which was completely different from the power represented by the void. Some invisible rules extended to this world, which were rules that were very different from the 5 major rules. In the desert void, the ancient parliament members who were discussing issues in the palace, and other powerful people were dumbfounded. They didn't know what happened. The machine sitting at the top seemed to have guessed something, and there was a hint of shock in his eyes. How is it possible? This is a huge life nest in another airspace. How can they cross countless airspaces and coordinates and directly connect to the void? What's going on? The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1035. What's going on? At this time, countless people were shocked, not just them. In the life nests in different airspaces, countless powerful creatures were also shocked. Because a huge hole appeared in their life nest, connected to another life nest. At this time, the number of life nest holes in the void is simply uncountable. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The majestic breath of life gushed out from these holes, and countless unknown rules twisted the original rules of the void into pieces. Everything changed in an instant, and the 5 ancient gods were all at a loss, not knowing what happened. At this time, the holes connecting one different life nest after another were constantly expanding. Countless life nests seemed to be merging with the void as the center, forming a larger void world. Countless rules appeared between this world, and everything was evolving towards the unknown. No one knows what happened, even those who have mastered the 3rd level of the spiritual realm don't know what happened. Bewilderment filled the hearts of all living things. Lin Yi frowned slightly. Through the connection with the main body, he could still sense the strange land. But he felt that this connection seemed to be constantly weakening. Hundreds, thousands, or even billions of completely different innate rules appeared in the void. The world seemed to be becoming more and more solid, and the strange land seemed to be isolated from the world. This change made the ancient parliament quiet down instantly, and they all looked incredible. They were all waiting for the end of the changes in the outside world. At least hundreds of void days passed in a blink of an eye. The entire void has undergone tremendous changes. The scope of the void seemed to have expanded thousands of times, even billions of times. Clusters after clusters, like nebulae, appeared in the vast void. Countless innate rules filled the new void, forming a dense and complex network that was unimaginable. This network is connected to every world, every life, even every stone and every dust in the void. A brand new world that cannot be described in words has appeared. Here, the rules are so strict that they cannot be described in words, and the void is filled with chaotic and wonderful forces. Each kind of this power seems to correspond to different rules. You can only mobilize the things represented by the corresponding rules. The ancient parliament was also affected. The island that was originally floating in the desert void has landed on a huge land at some point. This land floats quietly in the void, and it seems to have its own system. After coming to this continent, everyone in the ancient parliament felt a huge restraint. If they could easily tear the void and go anywhere before, then now the space is like steel, and they have to spend 10 times or 100 times the power in the past to tear out a channel. Of course, this is the inevitable consumption when they use the power represented by the eternal nature. However, they also found a problem. The power of the mind seems to be like a fish in water in this world. You can access all the rules of this world and easily use them to exert incredible power. The mind is still not restricted in this world. This allows them to remain at the top of the world, and they will not become weak and restricted because of the solidity of the world. The crowd was silent for hundreds of void days, mainly observing the various rules that appeared in the void. These rules gradually stabilized in the conflict, and in this process, they observed countless information about these rules. And this information is also very useful to them. What is useful at the level of the mind is the eternal nature. The eternal nature is the product of a large number of rules. In the ancient parliament, everyone who has mastered multiple eternal properties understands that the information of the rules is very important. Until this time, after all the rules have completely subsided, the rules have all been hidden, and their essence will no longer be easily seen by people. At this time, everyone also came back to their senses, and their eyes all looked at the machine. Machine, Do you know what is going on outside? The machine looked a little solemn. Some kind of power has affected the entire concept area of empty dot. Connect all the life nests in the airspace together. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's for raising goo. Hearing this, everyone felt an inexplicable fear in their hearts. They seemed to see a bloody storm coming. Countless lives will fight each other. This is a collision between civilization and life nests. The war seems to be on the verge of breaking out. The original void seems to have become the weakest party among them. Everyone present has their own means, and they can naturally see the vortex-like vortex light groups that appear in the void. It seems that they are all world group systems or star systems one after another. Or some other unknown systems, forming a huge life system. Each huge vortex represents a system of life nests, representing a group of completely unknown strong men. At this time, the void seemed to have turned into a jungle full of wild beasts and poisonous insects. If you show a little weakness, you may be eaten. The original void is in the center of countless vortices. The forbidden area where the ancient god is located is the center of the void, and it has become a place of war. All around are covetous, one after another life nest. I don't know how many terrifying existences are hidden. But now the void is very quiet, all the life nests are watching, and they don't know what's going on. Some smart people have noticed the problem. In the palace of the ancient parliament, the machine said heavily. Maybe there is some kind of existence that wants countless lives to fight and give birth to more powerful spiritual strong men. Then come to harvest the hearts of these people and become their own food. The machine's guess is chilling. If this guess is true, then there is no telling how many lives and strong men are involved. And all these lives are just chess pieces in the hands of others. A huge feeling of suffocation enveloped everyone, and they felt that this was very likely. However, the president slowly said, to achieve this goal, there is still a key point missing. Something will definitely appear, causing all lives, whether willing or not, to continue fighting. Only then can it be possible to raise a strong person. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 1036. With this point, our guess can become a reality. And this point may also be the key to breaking the deadlock. Lin Yi, who was standing aside, shook his head indifferently when he heard the president's words. Not necessarily, maybe this purpose is just to facilitate them to harvest the fruits. Cultivate all life forms, give birth to an extremely powerful existence, and then harvest his soul. Even if this kind of strong man does not appear, the black hand behind the scenes can also harvest the souls of all life, but the process is very simple and the other is more troublesome. Hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone's face became more solemn, because this inference is more cruel than the machine's inference. This is equivalent to saying that harvesting is a destined outcome, it is just a matter of convenience or inconvenience for the harvester. Everyone's heart is heavy, and the reason why they agree with the machine's inference is very simple. Because similar things have happened more than once in the void. Some powerful races increase the strength and lifespan of their own race by harvesting the lives of other races. This has happened in countless world groups, and this phenomenon can also be extended to the spiritual level. Because there is also a jungle law world where the strong prey on the weak. It is very normal for the strong in the jungle law world to carry out such a plan. Everyone in the ancient council fell into silence, and huge pressure was on everyone's heart. GZI said slowly, everyone, the current situation has become unpredictable. Are you willing to join the ancient council? Help each other. At this time, number one slowly spoke. Now, we are the only ones left in the original void. Instead of being alone and being targeted by others, it is better for us to stick together to deal with the disaster that may occur at any time. As soon as GZI finished speaking, the 5 people on the back of history said, "The 5 of us are willing to join the ancient council." GZI's face flashed a faint smile. "Very good, welcome to join." "I will join too, it's too dangerous to be alone now," the giant in metal armor said slowly. The black robe and the shadow also nodded at the same time. "We will join too." In the end, everyone present, except Lin Yi, chose to join, including the president, the master of the fairy palace, and the soul master. Everyone's eyes fell on Lin Yi, and GZI's eyes flashed with an inexplicable brilliance. He had noticed Lin Yi for a long time, and he was suspected of mastering a higher level of spiritual power, and even thwarted the plans of the ancient gods several times. A mysterious strong man that the ancient gods could not do anything to him. He was very interested in Lin Yi. "So Mr. Lin, what do you think?" Lin Yi looked at the people in the palace, including people he knew, people he didn't know, and people like number 1 who had fought with him in the air. A hint of calmness flashed in his eyes. "I don't plan to join any organization. But my Wanchaiwa can still do business with you. If you need anything in the future, you can come to me." As soon as the voice fell, 48 strange notes appeared on everyone's desk. Looking at the strange notes that appeared in front of them, everyone's eyes showed a hint of thought. They didn't know Lin Yi's origins, but they knew that this person was extraordinary. If the other party didn't want to join, they didn't mean to force it at all. With a wave of the machine, the note disappeared on the table. No one knew where he put it. "Since Mr. Lin is unwilling to join, we will not force him. I hope we will have opportunities to cooperate in the future. We are all from the same hometown and are naturally trustworthy." Lin Yi smiled faintly. "I will look forward to the day when I can cooperate with you." As he said that, Lin Yi slowly stood up from his seat, looked around, and under the gaze of everyone, he took a step and disappeared outside the palace gate. Everyone watched him leave and then retracted their gaze. As for what they were thinking, no one knew. Number 1, the few people who had once thought of Lin Yi, had a cold light in their eyes. Lin Yi made them feel more and more dangerous, which made them more and more afraid. A new meeting continued in the palace, and Lin Yi had returned to the Wanchaiwu. In the Wanchaiwu, Brandy, Sakuramiya Shirley, and others looked at Lin Yi in surprise. They didn't know what was happening in the outside world in the strange place. Their abilities were limited and they couldn't observe the outside world. However, Lin Yi hadn't returned for hundreds of days in the void, and something had obviously happened. Absinthe came over with a strange look on his face. "Manager, did something happen outside? You actually stayed outside for so long." Looking at Absinthe, who wanted to know the truth, Lin Yi did not hide it. "What happened outside is not small. It's better to tell you, so that you don't know anything." As he said that, he told them everything he heard and saw in the ancient parliament. At this time, everyone was shocked. What? All the lives in the void were slaughtered. Brandy looked unbelievable. How many lives are there in the void? It's terrifying to think about it. So many lives were killed, which simply challenged their thinking limits. Even Absinthe was a little shocked. It was a vengeful spirit and had no feeling towards the death of life. But he was also extremely shocked when he heard this number. Lafite, who had been holding the bottle, laughed strangely. "It turns out that the ancient god is not a good person either. He actually killed all the life forms he created. Even when we invaded strangely, it was not so tragic. The life forms in the void are really sad. There is no way to survive." He, Lafite laughed strangely at the ancient god, the creator of the void. Lin Yi looked at everyone calmly. "Next, with the arrival of one life nest after another, there will definitely be huge changes. During this period, our Wanchaiwu will hide in a strange place to avoid this disaster. You should also practice well. I will want Wanchaiwu to connect to the void and extract spiritual energy from there. You can watch and practice all the power systems in Wanchaiwu. I hope some of you can reach the spiritual level. Only by stepping into the spiritual level can you truly start the road to eternity. Now you all go to practice, maybe this will be your last peaceful period. Everyone nodded when they heard this, left the lobby, returned to their rooms, and began to practice in seclusion. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1037. In the House of Time, Lin Yi's body was already condensing the ninth imaginary Daohen universe. You must know that an imaginary Daohen universe is composed of 270 billion imaginary Daohen small worlds. A small world is composed of at least 365 imaginary Dao marks, with a total of 98.55 trillion Dao mark inheritance items. All the Daohen inheritance items in Lin Yi's hands were obtained from hundreds of billions of world groups. Through his calculations, it can provide him with about 100 different imaginary Daohen universes, representing hundreds of eternal properties. This is an incredible asset, but it will take a lot of time to complete. In 100 void days, he only completed the construction of the ninth Daohen universe. At this time, he already possessed unimaginable power. He raised his hand and waved lightly, and a stable space-time hole appeared in the basement. This space-time hole is directly connected to the void, and countless energy spurts out from it. These energies include spiritual energy, as well as countless other energies unique to the nest of life. Has countless properties. When these energies enter the void, it seems as if they have been filtered, and all the violent energy will calm down. Like running water, it quickly fills the entire house of all things. All people living in the house of all things can absorb these powers to practice. After doing all this, Lin Yi's body continued to fall into practice, constantly perfecting the new Daohen universe. At this time, his third clone looked at the only person still in the hall, Champagne. What kind of changes do you think this incident will ultimately trigger? Champagne's face showed a trace of solemnity. Just as you speculated, there may be a war that sweeps away countless nests of life. Even if it is a strange place, it may not be avoided. Will it spread to strange places? I have always wanted to ask you a question. What is the relationship between the six behinds of your history and the ancient gods? They'll come looking for trouble for you as soon as they arrive. A strange smile appeared on Champagne's face. Of course they will come to us because we are their shadow. The ancient gods were born in the original state, not in the void. They are not living beings that can exist in empty dot. Once they leave the original state, they will die. After their birth, the original state has developed for countless years, and countless ancient life forms have been born inside. Until one day, the ancient gods discovered the world. They found that small worlds occasionally appeared in the original state, although these small worlds only existed for a few seconds and then disappeared. After their observation and understanding, they figured out what was going on. These small worlds appear because the primitive state inadvertently gave birth to the most primitive rules. But these original rules are not perfect, so the existence of the small world is only a short time. The ancient gods discovered the existence of the world, and then they began to extract the basic particles in the original state. Also learning to understand the imperfect rules born in a small world. Eventually, they began to try to use the basic particles in the original state to compile complete rules. And those are the 5 innate rules. With the birth of the power of the 5 innate rules, the void was born from the original state. All the primitive states were absorbed by the void and became the food for the growth of the void. During this process, changes occurred in the ancient gods. The imprint of the 5 principles appeared in their spirituality, and new eternal nature was born in their bodies. In the process, we, their shadows, are also affected by the nature of eternity. We have emerged from them, half eternal. Then we lurked, even though they were always looking for us. But because we possess half of their eternal nature, we can avoid the search for void authority. Until they left, they couldn't find us in the end. And that's who we really are. Lin Yi heard his description, and there was a trace of thought in his eyes. Then why do you stay in the void? Champagne said with a somewhat ethereal look, first of all, we are the shadows of the ancient gods. Our power is only half of the eternal nature and is not perfect. We need time to make ourselves perfect. When the ancient gods existed, we were completely suppressed and didn't dare to show our heads at all, because showing our heads would mean being eliminated. In order not to be eliminated, we must do one thing, and that is to hide our existence. During this process, we can only maintain the status quo, and we don't even dare to absorb the energy in the void. Until something happens. Strange things appeared in the void, and even the ancient gods were eroded by them. The star whose body I have taken over is the only ancient god that was corroded in that war. And precisely because the stars were eroded by strangeness, the ancient gods also understood that they were not truly eternal. They are just stronger and cannot be harmed or restricted by normal power. It comes from weird power, but it can hurt them. After that, the ancient gods left behind countless experimental relics and disappeared. After a long time, we surfaced only after confirming that the ancient gods had indeed left. The first thing we did was to enter various ancient god relics, collect information related to the ancient gods, and use our authority. At the same time, we constantly improve ourselves and improve our eternal nature. Gradually, we were called the back of history, guiding the development of the universe in the shadows. However, we know very well that the ancient gods left behind a lot of things, some of which were meant to deal with us. For example, miracle coins are all this kind of thing. But we also very smart, never thought of surfacing, at least before we figure out where the ancient god went. Lin Yi heard this, his face thoughtful, so that's it, is this your origin and truth? I heard from another member of yours that you seem to want to rule the entire void. Why? Champagne looked at Lin Yi, the purpose is very simple, to control the true authority of the void. Then let the void devour the entire desert void and increase its size. At the same time, we will also benefit from this process. Our purpose is to become the only existence. This information is in the information left by the ancient god. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1038. They seem to be pursuing the true only, which is the realm above eternity. Once it is achieved, it seems that it will truly exist in the world forever and will not be harmed by any force, including weird forces. And we have seen it before in the ancient gods' plan. They once predicted that the void would continue to expand and expand. And whoever controls the authority of the void can use the infinite power brought by the expansion of the void to wash away their eternal nature. Let the eternal nature continue to sublimate and eventually become the only one. But they left without implementing the plan. We only know that their departure seems to be related to the power of the mind. So after this, while we are studying the power of the mind, we are also preparing to completely seize control of the entire void. Then use the void of life to swallow the desert void, continue the ancient god's plan, wash away the eternal nature, and make him change. Then why haven't you implemented it for so long? Lin Yi asked with some confusion. The reason is simple, because the ancient gods are not the only ones in the original state. There were also some powerful life forms born at the same time, such as the nine-clawed ancestral dragon, which was one of them. It's just that after the birth of the void, the original state gradually disappeared, and they had to enter the void. They are self-contained, and in the birth process of the void, they also discovered the eternal nature. By their accumulation in the original state, they also completed the creation of eternal nature. Life forms in the original state are far easier to achieve eternal nature than life forms in the void. It seems that primitive life forms naturally contain some kind of strange power, which makes it easier for them to create eternal principles. There are still some, even when they are born, they have the eternal nature of cohesion, such as the ancient gods and others. Finally, after the ancient gods left, with the birth of the desert void, these ancient life forms also entered the desert void. There are also some powerful void beings that were first born, and they also entered the desert void. It has gradually become a land of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. It is not an easy task for us to regain control of the void. We need absolutely powerful force to be able to suppress these existences. When Lin Yi heard this, he couldn't help but shook his head. Fortunately you didn't do this, otherwise you would all be dead. Champagne nodded. You said machines, and those mysterious ones. We have never heard of or seen existences that have mastered the third level of psychic power. They seem to appear in the desert void without any sound. What is certain is that they were definitely not born in the original state, nor were they born in the void. They must come from the outside world, other airspaces, or the spiritual level. Lin Yi nodded. He originally suspected that this mysterious machine came from somewhere else. He knows so much about Sara that he has never even heard of the backside of history. However, he also guessed that this was leaked intentionally by the other party, because he knew that the living beings in the void had no choice. Lin Yi took a deep breath. I already understand the specific situation. You will take care of everything in the house. Champagne looked at Lin Yi with some confusion. Store manager, do you want to leave? I'm going to use this clone to go to other life nests to investigate. See what's going on in other nests of life. What is their civilization like, and what do they think about the void that suddenly arrives? After finishing speaking, Lin Yi stood up. Pushing open the door of the house of everything, he was connected to the void in the next moment. Champagne watched him leave calmly without saying a word. Taking one step forward, he appeared in the void. With the light of true destiny shining in his eyes, he looked in a certain direction and stepped forward. Behind him flashed an ethereal appearance, which was a way of space that was originally empty. It's just that it's very difficult to use this power in the void at this time. There are countless innate rules in the void, which form a huge suppression on the rules of space. It is no longer possible to tear apart the void and move forward as easily as in the past. However, Lin Yi's whole body shone with the brilliance of his true destiny. Entering a magical layer of time and space, the power of the outer space vibrated, allowing him to move forward countless distances in an instant. The space-time level that Lin Yi entered is a level composed purely of space-time power, which can amplify the power of the outer phase of space. There are countless levels in the void at this time, and each level has different powers. These mysterious levels of time and space are all composed of a variety of new rules. They correspond to different nests of life. Time has no meaning in this space-time level, where it is almost eternal and unchangeable, almost at a standstill. Only the existence of a self-contained system can stay at this level of time and space. Ordinary life will come to a standstill when it comes here. Just like a stone sculpture without thought and life, it will always stay at the moment when it enters this level of time and space. In the pitch-black void, a figure flashed out of thin air and appeared here. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes as he looked at the huge whirlpool of light in front of him. This vortex is like a huge Milky Way, rotating around the center. However, its distance is far greater than the size of the Milky Way. In Lin Yi's eyes, he can see the center of this huge vortex, emitting an infinite light. This light shines on the infinitely distant void. Standing in the void, Lin Yi can feel that these lights seem to have gone through hundreds of billions or even trillions of light years. They are very old, so old that the light shining into the void is collapsing and decaying. He was surprised to find that light seems to have its own limits and will collapse with distance. This is an incredible phenomenon, at least it is the first time he has seen it. He can see that this life nest is covered by 6 different rules. This rule is different from the innate 5 rules of the void. These 6 rules are the brightest in this area. Other various rules are much dimmer. An extremely complex and huge network of rules covers this life nest, 6 of which are like trunks, and the others are like branches. That is to say, each life nest will take the original rules as the main trunk, and other rules as supplementary. Constitute a brand new set of rules, penetrating into every corner of the life nest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 1039. These nests of life will be completely integrated with the entire void. All life nests should be integrated into the void in this way. Why does it feel like the fusion of all realms in a story novel? It's like there's some kind of universal trend where everything is coming together. There are too many human signs. Is there really a huge black hand pushing all this? Is the purpose, as speculated, to harvest all life? Lin Yi's face was uncertain, and there was a huge, breathless sense of oppression coming over his face. He cleared away the troubles in his mind and quickly moved towards the central area of this huge nest of life. Escaped into a level full of space-time rules and moved forward quickly. But this time he could sense it. The 6 rules of this nest of life have also penetrated into this area, causing a huge impact here. This space-time zone also became solid, limiting his speed to a certain extent. However, the rapid activation of true destiny allowed him to ignore these obstacles. Under the power of the ethereal foreign minister, he quickly reached the center of this nest of life. This nest of life is different from the void world. In the original void, each world was a round sphere, with a layer of space-time crystal wall sealing off the inside and outside. The interior of the crystal wall is diverse. Some are continents one after another, some are like planets and universes, and some are filled with oceans, deserts, or flames, in various shapes and forms, breeding endless kinds of creatures. But this huge swirling nest of life is completely different. The smallest unit here is an island floating in the void. The islands themselves are also rotating, and they are also attracted to other nearby islands, rotating in various directions. But in the end, all the islands revolve around a huge shining island in the center. All this forms a wonderful picture, a huge whirlpool of light that looks like a disk. In this huge whirlpool, even the smallest island is as big as the entire solar system. There are countless lives densely living on it, as well as huge cities one after another. The most terrifying thing is that there seems to be only one kind of life form in the entire life nest. Their tentacles have spread all over every island in the life nest. They conquer and control everything here. A huge civilization is like a network, covering this nest of life. Lin Yi turned into an invisible existence, and no one could see him. He quietly arrived at the huge island in the center of this nest of life. This island exudes colorful brilliance and is covered with countless mysterious crystals and wonderful plants of different colors. At the same time, various huge buildings were erected on the sky and ground of the island. The appearance of these buildings shines with ultimate brilliance, and their shapes are also extreme science fiction, as if they are a civilization with highly advanced technology. The life form here is also a humanoid creature. They have the same body shape as humans, but each one is 3 meters tall and has a third eye between their eyebrows. Their third eye contains wonderful power and is deeply connected to the 6 rules of this world. What surprised Lin Yi the most was that there was an obvious spiritual brilliance in the souls of this race. This is a powerful civilization where all races are exposed to psychic powers. At this time, Lin Yi was completely shrouded in nothingness, integrated with the countless energies around him. As if he didn't exist, he was walking in a small city on the huge island in the center. There are also various cities in this world, and these 3-eyed races exist in each city. He walked on the streets for a while, and it was obvious that the civilization of this world did not have any commercial existence. Everyone has their own job, and depending on the nature of the job, they have different strengths. The weaker the strength, the more arduous the work, the stronger the strength, the easier the work. The entire civilization looks like a highly militarized country. Every living being has no private property, and everything they have is a contribution to the entire civilization. This civilization gave Lin Yi a lifeless feeling, as if they had maintained the state without change for hundreds of millions of years. This civilization seems to have existed for a long time, and this life nest should have been completely occupied by them a long time ago. They have developed alone in this nest of life for countless years, and what finally formed is this absolutely solidified civilization. His eyes could see through everything. At this time, he was paying attention to a three-eyed being on the street who was cleaning dirt from the ground. The opponent's aura was very low. After comparison, it was basically equal to the power of the immortal Dao level. But there was a faint spiritual power permeating his body, which combined with some kind of raw power in his body, produced a wonderful effect. All stains and dust will be directly melted by this force, turned into the most basic energy particles, and disappear on the street. This world is very strange. The void is filled with all kinds of stones. They are attracted by one island after another, and they will continuously fall from the sky. After rushing into the island, it will be reduced to countless ashes during the extremely rapid fall. These ashes will be scattered in cities and lands one after another. These ashes are what these low-level three-eyed people need to deal with. The most peculiar thing is that the stones in this void seem to never decrease. Once they fall on the island, the void between the islands will give birth to more stones again, as if it is some kind of conservation rule. Weird life nest rules, lifeless civilization. Pervaded with an ominous atmosphere. At this time, the three-eyed people who were cleaning in front of him had only a sense of calmness in their hearts, without any emotional fluctuations, and their souls were also very strange. Or it should not be said that it is a soul, but a consciousness carrier similar to the soul. And this carrier seems to be able to directly connect to the mind, allowing them to access the spiritual level at the level of human immortals. After observing for a while, Lin Yi felt that these three-eyed people were like robots. A race that thinks purely with reason, exists to develop civilization. After observing the low-level three-eyed people who cleaned garbage, Lin Yi observed the three-eyed people who worked in various jobs. The more he observed, the more he realized that this civilization seemed to have been realized in some way. At the same time, in his observation, this civilization seemed to have no hope. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1040. Lin Yi also saw a place similar to a hospital, where the three-eyed people born there have the power of the first level of the human immortal path at birth. And they will be instilled with countless knowledge at the first time, and then they can leave this hospital-like place and enter the society to work. There is no such thing as childhood for the life forms in this world, and there is no learning process. Even their birth is not through reproduction, but through artificial intervention. Lin Yi was very surprised to see all this. This civilization can be said to have brought society and system to the extreme. Every resource is used to the extreme, pushing civilization to an unimaginable height. Among these three-eyed people, the population structure is very sophisticated. The weakest is only the human immortal path, and the strongest can even reach the level of the ancient god. And the strongest exists on the three peaks of this huge island. The third peak is located in the center of this island. They stand side by side, like a pillar of heaven, and three infinite rays of light rise from it. This infinite light shines on the life nest ruled by the entire three-eyed people. They are the source of all life in this world. Lin Yi could clearly feel that the light sources they emitted were of 6 completely different eternal properties. Each of the 6 rules of this world is extremely perfect and powerful, and even evolved into a series of extremely small rules. And these rules can form a complete universe, or a life nest, around any of the main rules. And these 6 rules interweave to form this huge three-eyed life nest. The 3 extremely great auras control this life nest. They can be said to be the gods of the three-eyed tribe and the founders of the entire life nest. Lin Yi observed this wonderful life nest and understood and absorbed all the information here. In the process, he discovered the history of this civilization. At this time, he came to a place similar to a museum. There are countless pieces of information stored here, and the most attractive thing to Lin Yi is the history of this life nest. This museum-like place is as big as the entire Earth, with independent walls one after another. These walls are made of crystal-like materials, which are very strange and contain countless information. You only need to touch it with your mind to see all the information inside. However, Lin Yi used the True Destiny solution and directly saw the content represented by this information. In a hazy primitive state, three great beings were born. They had no specific appearance, but were shrouded in three rays of light. There was a war between them, and the radiants collided with each other, and the entire primitive state changed in their collision. The radiance they mastered was a kind of eternal nature. The eternal nature affected the primitive state in the collision, and then it differentiated and evolved into one island-like world after another. In the end, the entire primitive state became a life nest. The prototype of the world was born, and the three great beings stopped attacking each other. They put their power into the entire life nest and constructed a complete system of rules. In this process, their power seemed to complement each other and underwent tremendous changes. An extremely huge radiance appeared in the center of this world, illuminating the entire life nest. Originally, there were not only the three-eyed people in this life nest, but also countless races. But in the end, the three-eyed people relied on the perfect military system, the racial ability without any emotional fluctuations, and the powerful power of directly connecting to the heart. They also have extremely strong learning abilities, and eventually become the overlords of this life nest. But even if they become the overlords of the life nest, they are just slaves of the three great beings. Everything they do is just to serve the three great beings, and even offer their hearts when needed for the three great beings to enjoy. Looking at this information, Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. He saw the development process of this life nest, and the final result was so sad. The overlord civilization that can conquer the entire life nest is just food for the creators and is powerless to resist. Almost every year, the three-eyed tribe selects trillions of tribesmen to sacrifice to the three great beings. After these tribesmen are sacrificed, new tribesmen will be created one after another in the next year. The entire three-eyed tribe is like a pig that can grow continuously. It will always be at the bottom of the food chain, without hope and future, and will one day become a sacrifice. And the upper class of the three-eyed tribe will also have sacrifices. But compared to the three-eyed people who were sacrificed in the lower and middle layers, their number was pitifully small. This was an extremely cruel life nest without any emotion. Judging from all the actions of the three founders, Lin Yi was almost certain. Once they came into contact with other life nests, war would definitely break out. I wonder what other life nests would be like. Are they as cruel as this one? Lin Yi clearly understood the horror of the life nest where the three-eyed people were. The seemingly great civilization was actually just someone else's food. Shaking his head slightly, he turned around and stepped into the space-time level, disappearing in this life nest. As he left, three eyes swept across here invisibly. It seems someone has been here. There are some traces, but they can't be tracked. It seems someone has started investigating. Be careful, now that many wonderful life nests have arrived, unknown beings at the spiritual level are also about to arrive. The entire void will undergo a final change. What will happen? No one knows. We must be extremely careful. The three thoughts slowly fell into silence. At this time, Lin Yi was already heading towards the nearest life nest. After about a few void days, he came to a brand new life nest. This life nest is composed of three different rules as the main trunk. And the basic unit of this life nest is one wonderful crystal after another. These crystals are extremely large, and there seem to be countless passages and open areas inside. It is completely a huge, underground world-like place. The distance between all the crystals has a wonderful balance. And in the center of this life nest is an extremely huge crystal. The structure is the same as other crystals, full of passages and caves. Standing outside this life nest, he saw a well-ordered behemoth.